Hey everyone, this is Haley from Cartoon Universe, and today I'm with Michael to discuss the newest episode, Storm in the Room. And it was quite an amazing episode, wouldn't you say?
It's filler. It's
What?
damn stupid filler.
What?
I'm joking.
How
No,
dare
it's really, really intense. There are people saying it's filler, and you're incorrect.
We'll explain why.
Yeah.
Find out later in the video. Okay, so we already covered the first 2 minutes of the episode in our leak discussion video, so we'll probably keep that part brief. We'll just go over what happened. Basically, the episode starts out with Connie is in Steven's house and she's leaving it because she was there, staying there from, as we saw in the new crystal gems. But unfortunately, her mom is not picking up her calls, so she gets really worried, and they decide to play some games, pass the time waiting for her mom, which is kind of where the leak clip ended. And there was actually one thing I missed. Or some people mentioned that there was a board game on the table called Cosmic Engagement, and this is a reference to the game Cosmic Encounter, which doesn't really. It's just a cool little tidbit that they threw in. Yeah, I've never played the game, but
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. Some people caught that one.
That's cool.
So one of the games, or the game that they were playing together, is currently was Mad Libs. And it's funny to see how, or it's kind of sad to see how the answers that she says kind of reflects her state, because she's really worrying for her mom. Like something totally bad could have happened. And she's trying to use the techniques that Garnet taught her to calm down from, I forgot what was it? when funny.
Here comes a thought. Mindful education.
Yes, there you go. But thankfully, her mom eventually comes back. She was just working late, some problems at work. So nothing bad happened like some people were theorizing.
Yeah, we pretty much talked about that in the leaked video. We were pretty much on the money. Like, we figured nothing was actually going to happen. And as we're about to find out, that it ended up being the catalyst for Steven wanting to kind of talk to his mother and getting all in his feels about his mother. So we were basically right on that point.
Yeah, which is great. And that we guessed correctly there. So Steven is all alone now, and like you were saying, he keeps thinking about his mother, which is the reason why he wanted to later go into the room. So basically, going into that, he changes from his zoo clothes into his regular clothes, and then he tries something interesting. You also guessed, I was totally unsure about, was that he did get wet. It was from rain outside. I was like, that doesn't look like rain, but it was. So that's funny.
Right again.
But, yeah. Wow, my 2 for 2 there.
On fire.
Yeah. So he went outside because he didn't want to think about her, but because it rained, he had to go back inside. So he just thinks about her, which when he thinks about her, or wanting to actually meet her, his gem glows and the room activates. So this has happened a couple times before where he goes into the room, but it's been a while. So it's kind of good to see that he's once again asking questions for answers that we have. He's asking for questions that we've had for so long. He's finally getting into that stuff, which is just great to see.
Yeah, well, he almost does, at least.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Rewinding just a little bit, the earrings, though.
Oh, sure.
I'm calling it now. That these earrings are going to come into play. I said this in the leak video as well, but he put them down, and the camera was still on them for a little bit, which was very interesting to me. I feel like that wasn't just there for no reason. I feel like that was there to kind of signify, hey, remember these earrings? He put them here. Just remember. I feel like that was kind of like a nod from the writers, but I guess we'll see.
So do you think this will be like a tracker or something else?
Could be. Interesting. It could be a tracker. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's probably a tracker. It could be they might get some type of signal. Like I said, since it's magic, the gems are magic, and technology doesn't work like our technology does. They may actually still be able to get a signal from the zoo potentially, and maybe that'll serve as the reason they have to go back. But I think a tracker makes more sense, and that would kind of have the whatever gems, if the diamonds come back or whatever, when they come back to get humans for the zoo, that would make that much more intense, because now they are immediately tracked. So that would be really crazy.
Yeah, definitely. So then, moving forward to when he enters the room, he requests to see his mother, and she just immediately immediately appears. And this is the first time, I guess, he's kind of seeing her, you know, kind of actually seeing her, even though she doesn't, that Rose doesn't really exist. But obviously, he kind of doesn't know what to say or what to do. But, you know, they decide to play video games together.
It's so crazy seeing those two interact.
Yeah, just like that, just so normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's a little interesting thing was that he mentions that the game they're playing is Lonely Arms, which is like a spin-off from the show Lonely Blade, which we have seen many times before. Who knows if that means anything? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's just like a nod. I guess it's just a little Easter egg. I don't think that's anything important. That might be referencing something, but I can't think of what that would be. But he says that he likes that it's complicated, which definitely is the case for a lot of modern day video games.
So true. Then they pass a football around, and you know, it's funny funny to see how Rose acts during this whole thing. Like everything is amazing. Sports are amazing. You're amazing.
Yeah.
Everything's amazing.
She's like a basically parody of herself. And she was basically quoting the exact thing that she was talking about humans in the tape in Line 3, straight to video, but she was talking about sports. So it was like super funny. So I guess that's like the room basically imitating Rose, but like being super on the nose about it based on Rose's personality / Steven's memory and just being over exaggerated. So I thought that was really funny.
So next, for those that didn't, for some reason, maybe they didn't know or they didn't catch the reference, they did the classic scene from Peanuts where Charlie Brown tries to kick the football and Lucy takes it away at the last second and he trips. So that was pretty funny to see.
That was very specific.
Yeah, I mean, don't you know that one?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It was just like out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
Like, the tone changed, like she was being like all majestically funny, and then it's like, we're Charlie Brown now.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the tone totally changes again when they have this very meaningful talk, and Steven brings up, you know, the fact that he always thought that he had to live up to the expectations of someone who was perfect in every way. And, you know, he even says that he kind of wanted to be just like her. You know, of course, Rose is like, oh, you're wonderful the way you are, which is, you know, very roasting to say.
Yep, that's definitely what she would have said. And then he's going to dye his hair pink.
Yeah, that interesting. I don't know if he could have pulled it off, maybe.
I want to see some fan art of that.
Yes.
Steven with pink hair.
Yes. So, I mean, as we know, he is technically with his mother at all times because he has her gem. But what's interesting is that Steven still wants to take a picture with her, but this doesn't work. So we kind of learn a little more about the room itself by how, like, all the objects in the room are kind of, like, in the minds of the people that are there.
Yes,
kind of.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of. Like, so, like, the whole room is just empty and dark, which, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
That's
like,
ominous.
Yeah.
That Rose's room of all the rooms are just black, nothing. And it's just whatever she wants it to be. That's really, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah. It's cool how, like, the camera can pick up on it, which is, like, something that always is, like, it's always the camera that can, you know, like in ghost movies or whatever. That's what always happens.
Yeah.
So this, you know, like I said, the room's empty. But moving on, Stevens mentions that, you know, this Rose is not his mom, which kind of makes the room get all stormy and stuff, which could have to do with his emotional state, but I don't know if it was the room responding or if it was like his emotional state. Like,
I think it's kind of up to interpretation. I think it's mostly Steven projecting that for the most part, is like emotions. Because not to get too ahead, but like once he starts calming down, the storm starts calming down. So I feel like it's more so tied to Steven, but I think it's kind of both, really.
Yeah.
It's tied to Steven regardless of whether it's the room or just Steven himself. So it's like either way, pretty much.
Yeah. And so, like, when the storm is getting worse and worse, he explains that he realizes now that his mom is not perfect. Like, she's done so many wrong things. You know, he gives specific examples with, like, bismuth and other things. And, you know, he makes the very bold assumption that he was made just so she wouldn't have to deal with this anymore, which is very sad to see.
God, this, all right, like, it got super, super emotional. Like, I don't know how you could be angry at this episode. Like, yes, we didn't get any super relevant answers to anything, but there's probably a reason for that. But like, this was such an important moment for Steven to go through, because he's never had any interaction with his mother, and his whole life has been based around his mother. He technically is his mother. And it's like we've been kind of leading up to Steven having some sort of interaction with Rose, and this is pretty much as close as it's going to get. And he kind of needed to have this for himself to be able to move on, because he's been carrying the burden of his mother for so long, like as we saw, especially in Mindful Education. Like it's been really eating at him, and this was an episode that we really needed for Steven's development. Yeah,
for sure. He definitely, his viewpoints definitely changed, I'd say, at the end of this episode, by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So, something interesting is that once again, Rose's eyes are covered during the scene, which is like, kind of like I've always been like, oh, it's been representing her, her darker side, which, because she's not perfect, and very mysterious.
Yeah.
So, but, eventually Rose makes Steven realize that, all these things, like that what he thought was not exactly the case. She was sincere in the tape we saw in line 3 straight to video. And so, he realizes that, she meant what she said there. And like you said before, the room starts raining, and I feel like Steven begins to accept how everything is, and Rose disappears.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this earlier before we started recording, but I'm thinking about it more, and I think you might be right. I think that it might be actually tied to Steven more so than Rose, because at first I was like, oh, well, it could have Rose's memories, so that could be part of it. But I feel like a lot of it's tied to Steven, because I feel like we would have gotten some type of response about Bismuth and everything that's been going on if it was more tied to Rose's memories, potentially. But because Steven doesn't actually know, there's no way for the room to be able to tell him. But like, I forget what I was going to say.
Well, yeah, because like if you look at everything that was said by Rose in this episode, we don't learn anything new at all. Like we just rehear what Steven already knows, which leads to the conclusion that it doesn't have Rose's memories. Because Rose is not there. So it could be that it would be able to if it tried, I guess. I don't know. But we didn't see any of that in this episode, so that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I feel like there's a potential for that to happen, because he does have the same gem.
That's true,
so
yeah.
That's kind of surprising in a way, but like I feel like the whole point of that moment was for Steven to have some type of closure, and for Steven to understand that Rose isn't the perfect, amazing being that he thought she was in the beginning, but he needs to also understand that she's not this evil, crazy, terrible, secretive person that everyone's painting her out to be either. She's a mix of both, really, and people have layers and dynamics to them, and he's
probably.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, I think the whole point was for him to come to terms like, okay, she's not perfect, she's not evil, she's in the middle somewhere. She had to do some messed up things, and she had her reasons, whether they were right or wrong, but she's also very caring and sweet, and everything she said in that video was legit, and her time spent with Greg was legit, and all the good things about her were legitimate, but the bad things kind of were as well.
Yeah.
So there's the whole point of the episode, like for people calling this filler, was for Steven to come to terms with his mother and her past, and how he interprets it. And we even literally see this because they start off like, oh, it's all fun, we're playing football and video games, we're having mother-son bonding time, and then it goes dark, and it's like, oh god, you did this to Bismuth, you didn't tell Garnet and Pearl, and you left us behind, and the homeworld's gonna kill us. And it's like, it was kind of finding that balance and coming to terms with everything, the good and the bad, for Steven, so he can move past this thing he has with his mother and just kind of understand she's a person just like everyone else. She has a light side to her, she has a dark side to her, and yeah, that's it. And she does care about him.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that Steven is now thankful for what he does have, even if he no longer has his mother, or if, he never got to really see her, because at the end we see his father and the gems returning, and the pizza, and even though he's so happy for what he got, even if it's not exactly what he would have wanted. Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah. That was the point of this episode. It was super important, extremely important for Steven's character development, because if they left this episode out, then it would be kind of a problem from a writing standpoint for Steven's development. Things wouldn't make as much sense.
For sure.
Yeah, I understand people were disappointed. There's a part of me that's slightly disappointed that we didn't learn about anything about Pink Diamond or the zoo or anything like that, but we will learn it in time. We don't need to learn some amazing big lore thing every single episode. Like sometimes we need some important character development to move the story forward, and clearly they're leading up to answers in the near future. I'm sure we'll get it. We might get it by the end of this season, I hope. But we'll get it. So just sit tight.
Yeah. So anything else about that episode?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it. I loved it. I thought it was a great episode. Really emotional. Really, really rough. That music and the animation was just so like just got to me. But next week's a Ronaldo episode. Yay!
Woo! Excited for that one.
Yeah. Well, now we know Ronaldo's dropping some truth bombs, so we got to pay attention. Some people, I think people are taking Ronaldo more seriously now.
After like the zoo, what happened with that? Yeah.
Yeah, the zoo and the Diamond Authority, and he's just calling everything. So we're gonna be paying a lot more attention to Ronaldo.
Yeah. So one last thing, I think the ending theme was different again. I don't know if you heard it, but I think it was. So that's, it's changing as always.
Always changing.
I wonder what that leads to. I've talked about it before, so it's not too different from what was heard before, but it's just mysterious and ominous and kind of scary.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
It's hard to tell the difference between them all because they all sound very similar, but yeah.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much covers it for this video. We'll be back next week, of course, with Ronaldo to discuss that. So see you next time.
Later.